Yes, here we are once again. We are live, and then if you were watching live, of course, it's Wednesday noon at Eastern time. Of course, it is time for the High Noon Hemp Show. It's always time for the High Noon Hemp Show Wednesday at noon Eastern time. Of course, that's your favorite
High Noon Hemp Show. It's
hemp
always
infotainment show. Hey, that's me. I sound awesome.
Eastern
Listen to me.
time. So it's your favorite.
Such a sexy voice.
Forgot I had my volume. There we go.
That's right. Hey, the stream's working. All right, welcome.
Check all this.
You can find us in many places, of course, on Facebook's the Temptations Beach Facebook page. If you're on the YouTubes, as the kids call it, it is the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel. And if you're on X, or if you still call it Twitter, follow at Hemptations. I'm, of course, Stoner Jesus. I do various shenanigans and tomfooleries on the interwebs. If you want to search those out on your Netscape or your Bing or your AOL, he is Beach. He is high above the Hemptations and the Flower Factory in Northside. And he loves hemp. Beach, how are things this week in the world of Hemptations?
It's true. I am high above the Hemptations and the Flower Factory in Northside for this week's High Noon Hemp Show. We're chugging along in a good way, I suppose, as far as things go. Of course, the summer is officially here. That is for sure.
Yes.
Had to break out my hemp sunblock on Independence Day. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At one point or another on Independence Day, it was just my hemp sunblock and my hemp bathing suit, which is a pleasant way to do it.
Right.
Drifting on the yak, layered up in hemp with just a little bit of hemp on. My river shoes are hemp too, so as crazy as it is, I wear a pair of hemp Nikes, and they're probably like super rare or something. But they ended up they were 11s, and normally perfect size is 11 and a half. So I basically can't wear socks with them. So I said, you know what? These are just gonna have to be some water shoes now.
Yeah.
Some old school skaters out there going, oh my god, no. They're pretty cool. I'm gonna have to get one day. I will get a picture of just basically me and my bathing suit, my hemp bathing suit, which is a very little bit amount of hemp, but there is hemp in it, and it is a big company name. And my hemp Nike river shoes, and that's it. It's gonna be bare and all. That's
nice.
It's gonna have to be one of those.
Hey.
I'll put sunblock on first, and maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't, but it'll at least be part of the outfit. And of course a hat. Hat. Anyway, all right. Well, remember, folks, before I get too far off track here, the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and do our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the hemp fields of America and to the soil in which it is planted. One seed under the sun with responsibility, sustainability, and thrivability for all. All right. Well, we're 142 days now from the federal ban going into action. And of course, there's been no movement because, we've been celebrating the 250th in such a grand way. You can tell by all the crowds. The only thing that I want to know about is every time they kind of showed the booths that the states that people could go into, Arizona always seemed to have like a line or something. Like, what was going on in that Arizona booth at this celebration of 250 years in Washington? That's all I want to know.
Good stuff. Of the line.
Yeah, So anyway. But once again, we're kind of holding. It was funny, kind of like, although, like looking at my normal news feeds where I get my hemp news from, it's kind of interesting that there's been a lot of talk about moving forward with this, that, and all the other, this getting put into this and this getting done with that. But there's still quite a bit of not, like, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but more yes, it's coming, less no, it's not, kind of, it's
Right.
kind of interesting. I don't know. We're basically halfway through this, and so I guess we're exactly where I think we're going to be. And once again, there's um, if they don't do something in the next month or two, I will definitely be very surprised. They're talking about attaching a bill to the next um, military spending. I don't know what it is. I can't keep track of these. The fact that they can attach all these little bills to the major bills, and it's just convoluted anyway. But that's the latest talk, which I think is most more than likely going to happen, because once again, this is something that the Republicans are going to have to come out and say, look, we saved the hemp industry. If this ban would have gone through, the ban that we pushed. Because it was not really a bipartisan idea, attaching this ban to the spending bill last November, and this was the bill to get the government started again. This is how they did it. If you haven't been paying attention, they attached a ban on, um, basically, it limits the amount of total THC, and there's talk. I haven't even actually looked at what they specifically are saying is banned. I do know that it puts a cap on total THC, which will include THCA, on products like tiny amount, which basically gets rid of all full spectrum CBD products. They keep well, they were implying originally that this is not going to affect the CBD business, the CBD industry, and that is 100% a lie. And they went as they said this isn't going to affect the fiber or the grain, and I think that's 100% a lie, because again, they're putting more restrictions on what can be in that flower or what that flower can produce, and more restrictions means less farmers, average farmers, wanting to grow. I don't care what they're growing for. I've said that 100 times probably at this point. And I'm sticking to it. We're pretty we're pretty much back status quo in Ohio. SB 56 just kind of fizzled away. It's gone. No longer, there in existence. So yay, we've got until the federal ban now, anyway. And so, let's just go ahead and get on with that with the product spotlight.
Indeed.
And so we have new Gold Spectrum drinks, and some crazy flavors. Honestly, I was trying to see. You got the lavender lemon, cherry
Mhm.
tart, blackberry sage, and ginger peach. And these are just 10 milligrams. They're not crazy like the 420 crafts ones I showed last week, which were those are 25 and 50. These are just 10 milligrams. So this is, to me, a much more feasible dosage. Roar! Um, and so I can purr and roar, something cats can't do. Cats can either purr or they can roar, but they can't do both.
Oh, wow.
So there's something about that. There is something that some cats can feel like that's it. I don't know if it's the purr, but I don't know. I know there's some anyway. Enough cats. And so there you have it. Some drinks.
Mhm.
Then we also have some THCA vapes. And so the vapes again. I was just talking about this. So there's like there's an entire generation of cannabis users that only use vapes. Like they don't I mean, honestly really feel like it's absurd to use it in any other form. And I totally get it, but for the convenience of it. Again, and the reason that I bring it up is it's true. That's true. Um, is that I talk a lot about how the only way to get all of the ingredients inside of the flower is to smoke it. But and I really think that that's I really want to do some studies now on that generation of vapors. Is that what the next generation? Is that what that generation of kids is going to be called? Like Generation V for vape? No. Uh, um, how are they affected when they smoke it? Like if they're so used to just getting the THC or the THCA, either one of these are exactly the same. So they may say THCA, but it's THC. All right, and that's what they're used to getting, just the THC. How does it affect them differently when they smoke? I'm almost curious, honestly. So anyway, okay. How about some sativa super booth pre rolls? Pre rolls also very very popular with a lot of the generations, and I think the pre rolls are what's popular with say my generation of smokers who are used to rolling it up. And so, it's like it's the old person's lazy way of smoking flower and not having to go through rolling it up, which I'm in total agreement with. Now,
Really?
once again, you have to understand that a lot of the pre rolls, especially the pre rolls at the places you have to go to, that is 100% the lowest grade flower that you can get. There's a very good chance that they've shaken the trichomes, the keef, off of it, and it is normally, again, unless it's actually premium flower, which is what this is. This is not the bottom of the barrel stuff that's left over after everything else has been, you know, um, I would equivalent it to the tobacco that they put in dip. It's literally what they sweep off the tobacco warehouse floor when they're done auctioning off all of the tobacco. And I'm not kidding you about this because I grew up seeing it. And so, I really think that's what's shaking that Ohio is lucky enough to have and they were so slow to actually give them pre-rolls because our medicinal wouldn't even allow us to actually combust our flower for years. With the legalization, they can't no longer say we can't combust it, and so we finally got pre-rolls here in the state of Ohio at the legal shops. But again, they were really slow to the game either way. But it is the bottom of the barrel one way, unless it's a premium. Anyway. This is Super Booth. Find out whether you like it. Try it.
Indeed.
And the last from the store is some blunts. We got some indica. We got some hybrid. If you're from that generation, and that's kind of the middle generation. When we first started into this business in 1995, by 2000, blunt wraps. I mean, we had our selection of blunt wraps was unbelievable. And again, now we have the hemp wraps, and it's still quite now unbelievable where that blunt wrap industry transfers really into the hemp wrap industry, because the blunt wrap industry went from less and less tobacco in their blunt wraps to more and more paper anyway, and then all of a sudden But it was the flavoring part of it that the people really liked. And again, I never really was into that. I was never a roller to begin with. I am from, I don't know, Generation G, which is glass. I had my brother's wood pipe until I finally probably replaced that with a glass pipe. And that's the kind of the smoking weed that I personally, to this day. And of course I do like the pre-rolls. That's crack convenient because I can't roll.
Right.
So I need pre-roll because I can't roll. That's one of the things. If you watch the show enough, one of the things about the hemp store owner of 30 years is I cannot roll cannabis. I can do it to save my life. Don't get me wrong. And I have done it to save my life. Because if you don't know, I do have stoner hemp brain disease. And
Right.
so I have, in order to treat that at some point or another, I may have actually had to roll up a joint. It was ugly, but I did it. Anyway, so there you have it. 4 from the store. Now the one from my door, literally, you open up my door on the boat, and this is basically how you are greeted. So what we have here now, the focus was going to be on the pillows, but of course the spread on the back of the couch is hemp. There's my backpack on the floor. That's a shoe, and so that shoe has to be hemp. There's one of those watch bands in there, so that's hemp. Oh, my footstool stacked on top of the other foot, that's a hemp, and then there's some hemp fabric. There's a little bit of my piccolo guitar. All right, so, how we do.
Right.
One turns into many when it comes to my personal products. And unfortunately, I don't have any cool hemp couch covers, but I do have many cool tapestries, and I change those seasonally and whatnot. And so, one of the many, I don't want to say many, but one of the non-hemp products that we sold a lot of back in the day were tapestries. And I still have tapestries in the store. Get into Hemptations if you need a tapestry and see what we got, because we still sell them.
Right.
But it is one of the non-hemp, because I would love to have found a connection for some inexpensive hemp tapestries, which someone should still be trying to make. But anyway, there you have it. The one from my door, my hemp pillows, and those are the pillowcases. You just pillow the hemp pillowcases. But anyway,
Indeed.
Here on the High Noon Hemp Show. And now,
Which, of course, brings us to the greatest segment in internet history. I have yet to be proven wrong in almost 8 years when I make that statement. Not that anybody's tried, but they couldn't try. That's why they never tried, because they can't do it. There's nothing better than the beachwear segment. And a new traditional part, relatively new traditional part of the beachwear segment, of course, we look at the Guinness World Records. Used to be the Guinness Book of World Records. Now it's just Guinness World Records. Because, of course, as we've mentioned many times before, they have a stated standing policy: no hemp records, no cannabis records, which leaves us to us. We have to keep track of these. And, of course, we mainly focus on the records that Beach himself has set and currently holds when it comes to hemp. They are many, and they are varied. In the beachwear segment, we focus on, of course, the clothing portion. And we also go take a look at the Guinness World Records to see what they are focused on this fine day. Not hemp or cannabis, of course. And granted, and I've said it many times, most of the records are dumb. They're dumb. They're useless. Why anybody would care other than for, the novelty value of it, I have no idea. It contributes absolutely nothing to society or, the earth as a whole. Unlike hemp, of course, which is doing a lot of things in the world to help the world. But this week, the record itself, I don't know how important the record is, but the activity that they are focused on is important. Brick Lane, of course, Brick Lane is very important for, building, obviously. But this Guinness World Record, this is Charlie Collison from Britain. He laid 1,065 bricks in an hour. He broke a record of 872 that had stood for over 30 years. You see there the video. It's a whole big production. They have a whole crew there so that he can lay bricks. Hopefully this was a wall that's actually going to be used and not just a wall built for record, but I don't know if it was torn down after or what, but congratulations, Charlie Collison, for most bricks laid in 1 hour, 1,065. Well, there's the official lady. Look, the official Guinness World Records lady looking on, because it's very important. They have to send a crew. They have to send a team for these. And that's great. Bricklaying, as I said, is important. I don't know how important the record is. I don't know what that does for anybody. But I'm sure it makes Charlie feel fantastic. So good for Charlie. But we, of course, focus on hemp and the hemp records that Beach has set and holds. And of course, we talk about that in the Beachwear segment. And all you have to do, again, no matter where you see Beach, if you see him out and about, all you have to do is ask him one simple question. He will tell you all about what he is wearing. When you ask, what are you wearing, Beach?
It's true. If you're curious, what are you wearing, Beach? Now you'll know. And for the record, but not for that record, those bricks could definitely have been made out of hemp.
Absolutely.
But of course, they wouldn't mention that. They wouldn't tell you that.
No.
But it makes me want to sponsor the next guy that's trying to break the record and be like, all right, but you got to use hemp bricks. Anyway, welcome back. Or I don't know. I said welcome back, but no one left, I hope. Here we are, still here on the High Noon Hemp Show, checking out what I'm wearing. It's true. So on top there, I've got a good old Satori link hat. They call that the link. And then around my neck there, that is a beach lace. That is a necklace that I made myself back in the day. Of course, you can see that's a Hemp Hoodlam t-shirt. My shorts are of the Datsura. Now, those are my backpack that I carry every day. They've carried every day for like 10 years now. That's who made them. These are kind of like workout fight shorts. I don't wear them very often to work or anything, but there they are. They're super comfortable. I love them. My socks are, underneath those is my I Love Bad briefs. My no-show socks are from Hemp Traders. And, of course, that's a good old pair of Adidas on the old footsies. So if you're curious and you're wondering, what are you wearing, Beach? Now you know you're on the High Noon Hemp Show. And I was feeling very international for the trailer today. And so let's take a little trip and we'll be back with the news. You will hemp. You will watch. Passport to Hemptations. All right, there you have it. All right, well, it's been kind of a slow week this week, but stuff's still going on, of course. So Texas is now going back after THC again for some reason. Again, I thought they had this all worked out in Texas for the 28th time. But again, I don't know if anything ever gets worked out in Texas, finalized. I mean, you can't be bigger and better if you're not trying to get bigger and better. Anyway, so I don't know what's going on there. I will have to say that I called it last week. Franny reared her head in North Carolina, and the next thing you know, the bill that everybody was fretting about stalls in the House, passed in the Senate, stalled in the House, and so you know, uh, good for North Carolina doing the right thing, because they were really it was again it was too much. It was obviously it was too much. It was too much. And so, good for them. We'll see what comes out of it. I'm sure that they're not going to give up, but hopefully they will get logical with whatever it is that they're trying to do that was not logical to the industry. Illinois has finally figured it out, and so they're going to go 21 with the hemp stuff, so to speak, the intoxicating hemp. And again, this has been a battle back and forth in Illinois between like the attorney general and the governor. I mean, and luckily, for the most part, the governor has been, uh, pro anti ban. Is that something? Can you be that? Can you be pro anti? I mean, so I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense. But anyway, and so they're going to do 21, and I think there's some other stuff. But it was again the logical solution to not banning certain things. Now I think that the Illinois thing really kind of tackles the Delta 8 issue. And again, good for them for that, because Delta 8's been over for years. It's like it's not even relevant in the industry anymore, honestly. And it's unfortunate if they did ban it or do something stupid, because again, it is something that people use for its therapeutic value, because it wasn't as strong as Delta 9. And which I think is funny. Again, they keep going after it, and they go after it with the argument it's synthetic, blah blah blah. And of course, synthetic always gets you think bad things when you hear synthetic, but they're actually just taking hemp and making different hemp out of it. It's the science of it. So they can take CBD and change it into Delta 8 somehow, synthetically. But they're just, because synthetic really just means taking one thing and changing it into something else. So it's really important as to what they're started with, as to not what they ended with. So that's what we have to worry about when we worry about synthetic. Synthetic clothing, they start with oil, all right, and that doesn't, anyway, I'm not going down that route right now. And so, and that's how they're going after all these synthetics. So it's like, here's the deal. The DEA coming out and saying that HHC is not federally illegal is true, if that HHC is made from marijuana. HHC made from federally legal hemp is 100% legal. And this is the trick that the DEA, this is the trick that I call using the illegality of marijuana in a very shady way to imply that hemp products are illegal. And it's disturbing that it's still going on and people are still buying it. I guarantee you 9 out of 10 people that follow these trades will say HHC is illegal. 100%. To which I would say, no, that still depends on where the HHC came from. They tried to do the same thing with Delta 8 and all that. The DEA has come out and said everything, including CBD, after it was taken off the controlled substance, and they tried, same in Ohio, tried to say that it was illegal, which technically, once again, it is. If your CBD is extracted from marijuana or cannabis that had 0.4% or more THC Delta 9 in it when it flowered, that is 100% federally not legal. 100% federally not legal. True, the DEA could come and arrest you if they wanted, although they normally have to be invited. But if you were touting that, you're some shop somewhere or a manufacturer, and you're not hiding the fact that your CBD is coming from technically marijuana plants, flower, then you would be 100%. It could be a target, or would be. But if your CBD comes from hemp, you're 100% legal. Your HAC comes from hemp, you're 100% legal. Your Delta 8 comes from hemp, you're 100% federally legal. Again, check your state laws. Because now it's the states that are, messing these things up. I think that's why one of the bans, I forget where it was, and maybe it was the Alabama one, I don't know, but because it referred to everything as, synthetic this, synthetic that, even though it's all naturally occurring, by the way. It's all naturally occurring. It's just naturally occurring in such a low dose that there's no therapeutic benefit. There's no way to get therapeutic benefit by boosting those percentages, which to me seems like the anti-science of the plant. All of these plant growers of cannabis over the last, say, 50 years or so have figured out how to boost certain cannabinoids. So I guess it's just the fact that it is such a minuscule amount that even if they boost it, then you're still only going to get a exponentially small amount. But anyway, and so that could be the only way. And again, the only way that we could ever get the truest therapeutic value, and this is what I'm talking about when I say we have to smoke it to get everything. The only other way to get that would be to synthesize or, once again, divide out all the ingredients, and then put them back together into something. That's every single thing in there: the sugars, the alcohols, the terpenes, the cannabinoids, all of it. You have to take it all out and then put it back into something and then ingest it. Pill, it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a vape, it could be a pill, it could be whatever. But that is, again, that's why we don't. That's why there's no, say, synthetic chocolate, because there's so much different ingredients. That's why we'll never. And I'm not saying we'll never not have truly synthetic cannabis, because there's a lot more profit. There's going to be a lot more profit in doing that than there is in trying to fake chocolate. But when that coca bean, if it ever disappears, we don't have enough of it ever, what are we going to do? And that could be the same dilemma with cannabis, for that matter. Although we already, we'll already figure out how to fake the stuff everybody really wants. If the apocalypse comes and somehow we're not still growing a bunch of cannabis somehow on the planet naturally. If it comes to that, we're probably not surviving as a species anyway. So
Yeah.
I will have to say that the one apocalyptic kind of novella that I've written in my head and put a little bit on paper. Obviously, the survival of humanity is based on the availability of hemp seeds. just a major part of a subplot. Anyway, and that would be true, honestly. You know, I mean, once again, if it all goes to hell in a handbasket, you want cotton seeds or you want hemp seeds? You want soy seeds? You want corn seeds or do you want hemp seeds? There's no seed. There's no seed. You know, I mean, the fact of the matter is, that's the one thing the doomsdayers probably got wrong when they were collecting all their seeds is they didn't have hemp seed, because that's the one thing that, again, we get everything out of the plant. I mean, if we have to start all over again, we can grow one plant that has nutritional value, clothing value, housing value. Again, you know. All right. All right. Okay. I love this picture from this. This is the article's a simple plant-based food has more protein than an egg and doesn't need to be cooked. That's the title of the article. And of course, it's hemp. And then again, this is so a large egg contains about 6 grams of protein. 2 tablespoons of hemp is 6.7 grams of protein. Now, what's interesting is that they were saying something about how that egg itself weighed like 50 grams or so, and if you were to take 50 grams of hemp seed, then those numbers would go up even more exponentially, I think. And so I get that. And again, they did make it a point to say it's not a competition. Here's the deal. I sprinkle hemp seeds over my hard-boiled egg. You know, just a hair of salt, some cayenne, hemp seed. Take a bite, repeat. Take a bite, repeat, finish. And so, um, it's protein's important. And that's a great way. Again, I mean, I'm getting a huge amount of protein just doing that. Huge amount. But the thing is, and again, they're both high in the essential fatty acids, so that omega-3, omega-6, they're both good for that. But hemp adds on an exponentially higher number of high amount of magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, iron, 8 times the amount of iron. So if you need iron, there you have it. Fiber. It also has fiber where egg does not have any fiber. There's no fiber in that. And then it actually has 2.5 times the calcium. And again, you have heard me say so many times how dairy milk is a terrible idea. Hemp milk is so much of a better idea. And again, the health benefits, because the calcium that's in the dairy milk, our body doesn't produce the amount of the right calcium that it's supposed to. The calcium that we got from the foods that we ate, not what we drank. All right, for however many years you want to equate humanity being humanity, we drank water. That was it. And we got the calcium to make our bones strong from the foods we ate. not the water that we drank. All right. And so that's why you should get your calcium from your vegetables or even from hemp seed. And so I'm going to have to look into, because again, I'm not even, I mean, I'm sure that I've seen calcium on there, but I find out exactly how much calcium hemp seed is, see what that daily value is. I don't know that I can't think of it off the top of my head. And so anyway, um, and so, just goes back to the fact that as far as a food product goes, this is the greatest food product that we could possibly have. Plant based, best plant based food product that we could possibly have. So everybody needs to start eating it.
Right.
I get my daily dose. I can. I mean, if I don't, I'm almost afraid that the stoner hemp brain disease will like fizzle away. Like I don't like it.
Right.
So it's got to be part of the medicine that I take for that. Let's see here. THCV, and so again, it's like they're just so crazy. But THCV now is going to be kind of, I think, one of the next more popular cannabinoids for the reason that it's more uplifting. And once again, my generation of cannabis users is looking for that so-called sativa high, and I mean, more people should be that focused, if that's if that's what they need, and so we'll see. And I think THCP is going to come along also, and see. And again, and these have all been products that I have sold and sell, and are once again, as I think they're really getting out there, and call it market research. People are finding that that's fitting their specific need for what they're looking for the side effects of their cannabis ingestion. And so it's that's what it is. And I think that once again, I think this was one of the ones, and I have to go back, and I'm sure I reported it was either P or V was and it was probably this one, because of this, was actually showing benefits uh, with diabetes and whatnot. And again, this is something I reported on, not medical advice. I'm not saying that's true. Do your own research when it comes to something like that. But I know I've talked about a couple of these, what we'll call new generation cannabinoids, that are, being discovered more. Well, I think this is interesting. Once again, being discovered more. This is why the marijuana industry hates us even more. But they're being discovered because of the legalization, the federal legalization of hemp. Pure and simple. We don't know. We may still not know about THCP and THCV and even CBN or CBG, for that matter. CBD was a part of, and what was ironically, the marijuana industry is trying to breed out CBD, when honestly, if they were paying attention to their customer base, they would have at least 5 different options of, say, a 5% CBD. Even if it was 20% THC, 5% CBD. People want that. I know that. I hear that. They don't produce that. And it seems so silly. And it's almost like they don't produce it because they're like, oh, we don't even want to be associated with CBD. We want to get people high, man. CBD doesn't get people high. We don't need to that. The whole industry is so cool that it doesn't want to be as cool as Ken, which is Gene's imaginary friend on Bob's Burger, and I quote, "Ken, you're as cool as CBD." He's talking to me on an imaginary phone. Again, Bob's Burger is one of my favorite shows, but that's the reference to CBD that they make. And of course, very early in the show, they make a reference to hemp in the episode where there's a supposed outbreak of lice. The teacher comes out and she says, "I found a cure. It's a miracle cure." And Zeke says, "Is it hemp? That stuff's great for everything." It's a great line. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Um, Without the legalization of hemp, we don't know about all these cannabinoids. And what's going to be interesting now is, once again, because of what the federal government may or may not do with this rescheduling, and who knows what that's going to happen. And again, are they once again kind of holding it off until we get closer to the midterms? To actually put something to action. The DEA is doing their. And again, here's the thing. Here's what else I don't believe. Why is the DEA? Why do they have anything to do with this rescheduling? All right, they are just the police. The police don't have anything to do with the laws. Why is it in this particular instance? Is it that like the DEA is going to be the authority in deciding what rescheduling or whatnot? I mean, they're at least going to be on board with rescheduling, I suppose. They're never want. I mean, it would be stupid for the DEA to agree for marijuana to be taken off the controlled substance list. For job security reasons alone. They still put a lot of money and investment in trying to curtail the illegal marijuana industry in the United States, even though that's technically every freaking state just about at this point.
Mhm.
And so it's not in their best interest for any of this. It's not in their best interest to reschedule in any way. Because right now, it's like a felony. And if they reschedule it to more like a misdemeanor, then what happens? Then once again, it's a big part of what they're supposed to be doing. And I don't understand why there are not special committees set up with medical people. And I mean, everybody, again, the DEA should just wait until the laws either change or not change. They can keep doing whatever they're doing under the current standard of the laws, just like all cops do. Okay. And then when their bosses tell them, "Oh, this has changed, stop doing this," then that's what happens.
Right.
I mean, cops do not use the smell of marijuana to make you think you're doing something illegal anymore, because that's changed. I can smell like marijuana now, legally. And it gives them, the police no excuse to search my vehicle or my home or my whatever. Doesn't matter. And the fact that that's what it is. And that's why we have courts, because guess what? Even the police don't know all the laws all the time and all the changes. That's what that's the judge's job. And that's the way they look at it. And that's why it's best that you know your own rights and your own protections best you can, because the cops don't really care. In the long run, they're going to say, "Well, I'll just let the courts work it out. All I do is I'm the intermediary. You know, you either have or haven't broken a crime, and I don't have to prove that really right now if I don't really want to. And so, um, I just it just kills me that the DEA has anything to do with anything when it comes to changing cannabis laws. They didn't have anything to do with taking the hemp off the controlled substance list. We never had to go in front of the DEA and beg them. We changed the freaking law, and the DEA had to comply with it, which of course they didn't want to do right out of the gate. The first year, 2014, they held up seeds that were going to Kentucky for no reason whatsoever, but because they could, until they finally had to get a judge to tell the DEA to release the seeds. They weren't on the controlled substance list anymore. Or no, they were still on the controlled substance list here. They had to still go through the DEA. But they wouldn't, they were messing around. And they were messing around so much. And again, this is the way they work, that they were just hoping they could mess around long enough and then they just couldn't plant them whether it was legal or not. But the judge said, release the seeds. They released the seeds. And then after that, because the DEA realized they couldn't pull those shenanigans again, there were very little issues. Very little issues. Maybe a handful after that. And so, but even in those first 100 acres in the first year, the DEA tried to pull shenanigans. Once again, no reason, no appropriate reason. They clearly knew that the laws had changed when it came to industrial hemp. And so, we're still battling it, but they're battling us. In 2018, hemp's off the controlled substance list. Now, of course, they're almost trying to put it back on the controlled substance list with like an asterisk, and so that's just stupid. It really is just stupid. But the DEA should have nothing to do with it. They're the police. They're the police. They wear the badges. They wear the guns. They don't write the laws. I mean, that's why we have all these levels. We have the law writers. We have the police. We have the courts. As they say, you cannot be the judge, jury, and convictioner and all that, the executioner and all that. So why is the DEA, why are they holding anything to do with cannabis? What the cannabis policies are going to be in the federal government? Ridiculous. Anyway, Portugal architect Ricardo Leal has built himself a hemp chicken coop. Possibly the coolest chicken coop ever. I built a couple chicken coops in my life, but not nearly as cool as this. Not nearly as cool as that. And once again, the fact that an architect takes the time to build his chicken coop out of hemp says a lot. Maybe a hemp house is coming soon. I don't know. How Portugal. Hopefully, we're going to be seeing some more hempcrete projects coming out of Portugal now. Maybe this guy's going to get a fire started with hempcrete in Portugal. But I like it. I like it a lot. It even has a name. It's called Pestana. I don't know what that means, but it's the Pestana chicken coop.
Nice.
So we'll put that on one of the, like a bingo card of cool, unique. I mean, best of my knowledge, I'm going to go ahead and give them first hemp chicken coop built on the planet.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and so it's a destination. I bet those eggs from those chickens taste better. Anyway, uh, fun stuff. You know, I miss the chickens. I do miss the chickens. Um, there's nothing better than fresh eggs, honestly. There really isn't. And they're cool animals, honestly. All our chickens had different personalities.
Mm.
Anyway. Da-da-da-da. Small town sheriff department. Oh, dang it. I think it's Alabama. I didn't put that, but I'm pretty sure it was Alabama. Got a huge reality check because they're not going to have to compensate a hemp store owner for a bunch of products. I mean, again, so they took the drug dogs in, and the drug dogs sniffed positive on the flower, the cannabis that the shop had. Um, they then showed the police all of the paperwork. You know, so here's all the COAs and all the tests. This is hemp, blah blah blah. Still get everything confiscated, and I don't think they were actually arrested. You know, again, this is small town cop mentality. All right, taking the drug dog's nose for it instead of the paperwork that's real, and in the long run found to have acted inappropriately. Which again, it's so hard to believe it still happens. You know, I mean, Alabama, I get it; they're going through some stuff right now. They're obviously not a very cannabis friendly state because they're really going. You know, I mean, they just, I think, really, I don't think they banned hemp stuff, but I think they moved it into a certain category, and now, but the availability is an issue and things like that. I don't really know positively, but I do know that, and I don't believe that they're even. I don't think they even have medical or personal. In fact, if I remember correctly, Alabama may be one of very few states that didn't pass their medical when they had an opportunity to, whenever that was. So anyway, there's your there it is. And so I think this obviously this illegal seizure happened before the probably changing of these new laws. Uh, but either way, they're paying for it. They're paying for it, literally paying for it. So check out this is I'm sure I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. Hongling Ding. I'm going to call him Ding. No. But in an interview with Hemp Today, and so you can go to Hemp Today, I believe it's hemptoday.net, and it's super cool. But in an interview with him, now he owns the world's longest established hemp textile company called Hemp Vortex. This is in China. He has 1,700 employees, and they supply hemp fabrics, yarns, and finished products. It would not surprise me if I know exactly if I don't have some of probably the material that he's making and or whatnot. I think the interesting thing about it is, and there was a couple things in the article I thought were interesting, and the fact, and I like this in one sense because this is proving that China is in fact going the right direction with their labor issues. Is the fact that he said, yeah, it's getting more expensive, and that's the reason. Is because our labor um, um, costs have gone up exponentially. over the last 30 years. And I'm glad for that. Now, I find it, once again, still very hard to believe that those costs have gone up so high that it's not, everything's gone up. But I'm glad to hear that that's the case, because at least that's, reassures me that at least in this industry, if not China to begin with, is at least still going in the right direction when it comes to treating their labor fairly. And so that's pretty cool. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, and the world, the hempcrete world, definitely I think is very interesting, is the fact that he basically made reference to the fact that they have so much hemp herd that they can get it to anywhere in the world super cheap because they're not using it there, which is crazy to think. I don't know. I don't really know what's the main construction material. I find it hard to believe that China doesn't build out of concrete. But I don't know. I don't know. They have endless supplies of wood if they still basically built most stuff out of wood, depending on the size of it, I guess. Again, these are correlations. I don't know about if it's true. And I think the other part of what was interesting about the article is the fact that he made mention how there's a very small food industry, and this I don't know how these. To me, this seems so crazy that China has such a documented history. I mean, the food history goes back 5,000 years, at least. Documented that the Chinese were eating hemp as part of their diet. And the fact that it has disappeared, this is, again, I just don't, the mystery of it disappearing as a food source seems so crazy. I think the craziest thing is when I'm really putting some semi deep thought into it is the fact that the material, the fiber of the plant, became the prevalent use, and even though it became really small, but it became the prevalent use. That I still find it so super surprising that the food industry still didn't survive. But it really is kind of like, it's almost like the growing of it for the fiber almost kind of pushed the growing of it for the food aside, and the food got replaced by other crappier foods. And we conquer the world with the fiber, and that's the case. We conquer the world with the fiber, and we leave the food, the grain, kind of behind a little bit. And that's where we are now. And again, at no point in any of my speeches over the last 30 years have I never not said that growing for the food is the most important reason to grow this plant to begin with. It's crazy. But, that's the control of the food industry, which is 8 to 10 different companies control the majority of all the food on our planet. And why they're not heavily invested in hemp to me just seems so crazy. But it's because they're so heavily invested in all that other crap that they're selling you on the grocery store shelves that is terrible for you.
Mhm.
but it's cheap and what you're used to getting. And why would those people making money on your food purchases care about your health? They only care about your money. It's ridiculous. Anyway, 'tis what it is, and that is what it is. All right. Well, I don't really have any events. My questions and thoughts were clearly illustrated once again throughout the throughout the show. And they also clearly throughout the store, if you've ever been at the store with me, and we started talking about hemp. Anyway, we so appreciate you being here with us every Wednesday. And if you're watching later, we so appreciate you just taking the time to watch later. Spread the word. Tell your friends to subscribe to the Jedi Hemp channel on YouTube. Give us some thumbs up. I think it's funny that I periodically, and I don't even know why, I have to go back and see what I've even posted on the Hemptations Beast, but they're like, you're no longer being recommended.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, and I know it's over a hemp post, but it's over a hemp post, not some drug reference or blah, 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 blah. It's so funny. Yeah. And again, it's like, oh, you're not recommending. I was like, well, guess how many new people have subscribed to my Facebook page because you're supposed to be recommending me? 2? I mean, like, oh no, you're threatening me with something I don't even think you're doing to begin with. I don't think you're recommending my page to anybody to begin with. So now you're threatening to take it away from me. Or threatening to not recommend it. I'm sorry, not take it away. I don't think any of my pages ever have where they actually like snoozed me or banned me or whatever. Ever. And if it ever did, I challenged it and I won the challenge. Either way. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp. Having Hemptations.
See you all next week.